If you've ever been compelled to look beyond the scene and look for the unseen impacts of a policy or program, you've been influenced by a 19th century French economist, Frederick Bastiat. It's just one of his many interesting contributions to public policy. Now people in the Raleigh area have a chance to participate in a group named for Bastiat and dedicated to some of his ideas and principles. Joining us to discuss this new group is its founding director, Bradley Taylor. Brad, what drew you to Frederick Bastiat?
Right. So I'm probably not uncommon in that I did not know about Frederick Bastiat before, even probably 6 or 7 months ago. I really found out about Frederick Bastiat because there was a kind of a public policy newsletter or something, and it mentioned Bastiat, and I looked it up and found that there was this Bastiat Society affiliated with American Institute of Economic Research, and it turned out that I heard about a couple of lectures that were coming up, and I watched the lecture through the Bastiat Society in Washington, D.C., and I got in touch with the director by the name of Steve Dewey in Washington, D.C., and he said, there isn't a Bastiat Society in Raleigh. And so that kind of brought me to further inquiry about what this man represented and his thoughts and what we might be able to do here in Raleigh.
And as we've been talking about this, you mentioned you don't consider yourself an expert on Bastiat, but you are learning about it and think that other people might be interested in learning too.
Absolutely. I'm an attorney. I'm actually from California. I'm a licensed California attorney, and I moved to North Carolina in 2010 with my wife and my 2 daughters. And my wife is a biomedical engineer, and I was practicing law in California, but I had a background in public policy. I used to work in the California legislature and in the late 1990s. Well, anyway, what happened was we moved here, and we had an opportunity to grow a business. My wife is a biomedical engineer, as I mentioned, and she invented a device that's used for studying neurons. And it turns out that we were able to, through the hard work of some partners and ourselves, start a company. And so in any case, we started a company, and I became a business person, basically. And so I'm CEO of a small biotech company, believe it or not. Yeah.
And in doing that, you've learned that there are some things that involved in running a business that you never expected.
Yes, absolutely. And look, Bastiat was about people growing their businesses. He saw some problems that came about as a result of trade policies in the early 19th century. He started writing about these issues, and the funny thing is, I don't think he was completely advocating that there shouldn't be any kind of government at all. I mean, basically, he wasn't saying that the government is going to be abolished. And in fact, look, in all honesty, my company, I want to make a shout out to, like, for instance, the local SBA. They've been great advisors to me and to my wife and to our company. But there comes a point where you have to start asking, okay, what is the role of the government in the economy?
And so you, as a business person, learning about business as you're going along, and then hearing about this fellow Frederick Bastiat, thought, there's some interesting ideas I can get from him. It sounds as if one of the reasons that you were interested in working on a Bastiat Society in Raleigh is you think there have to be other people out here who could take the same sort of advantage from learning about this.
Yes, I think, look, there has to be some questions asked about what is the role of the government in the economy and what's going on in our country today. And so if I can help to bring together some people who can at least inject some intellectual conversation into a debate about what is the role of government versus the private sector, what is the role of the free market, what is the role of capitalism, how can people who have to make a living, which is a universal trait, by the way, all throughout the world, right? I mean, everybody wants to have a family, children, or people close to them that can thrive, and they have to have a living. They need to have a stable environment to do that. They want to educate their family. They want to be able to buy and sell goods at reasonable prices. So these are important concepts. And while government it might have some role, right? Is not the only answer, and it can also create huge problems, which really is kind of a segue to another important thing, which is that our first inaugural event is on October 13th, 2021, here at the John Locke Foundation, and the speaker is John Allison, who's the former CEO of BB&T Bank. And he's an outstanding advocate for capitalism based on his background over 30 years of working in the banking system. And I can't think of a better person who could be an inaugural speaker for the Bastiat Society of Raleigh. I'm super excited.
Yeah, we're going to talk a little bit more about that, give people more details about the event coming up on October 13th. But first of all, just the chapter itself. If someone is watching this video and thinking, oh, it sounds kind of interesting. Remind us, who do you think, as the person putting this together, this group is really aimed toward, and what do you hope the group's going to be doing as it moves forward?
Sure. So this is a social group. It really is. I want people to come and to have fun and to take part in some of the sort of skeptical, intellectual curiosity that actually Bastiat himself illustrated, for example, to illustrate not only his genius but why he became popular. He would say stuff like, wow, the candle makers need to really boost their productivity. So what we should do is just block out all the light. Basically, we don't want to have any sun, and everybody's going to start devoting themselves to making candles and wicks, and this is going to really boost a lot of different areas of production in the economy. But of course, that's a ludicrous idea, but he used that to illustrate in a kind of a fun way. Look, these are some of the things we need to talk about in terms of the economy. So I hope that we're going to be able to stimulate people's curiosity about economics, and that goes for everybody. I mean, that appeals to everyone. It includes students. It includes business owners, family members, people who are staying at home at work, people who are raising their families, basically anybody who's interested in how do we more efficiently and effectively allocate resources in our society.
And so the first event you mentioned is going to be a presentation with John Allison, the former head of BB&T. You actually, if you want to hold it up, you've got a copy of a book he's written about the financial crisis.
Shameless plug here.
And the free market cure.
Yeah.
I think he's also done another book that also deals with leadership issues in dealing with these types of topics. So John Allison has some very interesting things to say. This will be on October 13th. At the John Locke Foundation office in Raleigh. And what else is going to be happening along with that event and in the months ahead? You're going to be meeting regularly?
Oh, yeah, sure. So we're going to be meeting on the second Wednesday of every month, excluding December and July and August. And we're going to have some fantastic speakers. We got Richard Saltzman, Duke professor. We got Michael Munger. We got who's also a Duke professor. We have Bob Luddy, who started Captive Air Systems. We have Jenna Robinson, Terry Stoops, education experts. We have Robert Waples out of Wake Forest. I mean, this is super, super exciting. And all the events are from 5:30 to 8. And there's going to be some time for lecture, and there's going to be some time for coming, enjoying hors d'oeuvres and drinks and talking and networking. And I really hope that people will take advantage of that from a networking standpoint as well.
And no one's going to have to read a 500-page tome with all the charts and graphs and that sort of thing.
No, it's going to be the opposite of the dismal science, I hope.
Well, if people want to learn more, what's the best way for them to find out more about the Bastiat Society?
So I think the easiest thing for people to do is just to remember aier.org, and from there they can go to Bastiat Society and do the drop-down menu, and they'll go to those. There's several chapters throughout the world. So excitingly, we have one here now in Raleigh. They can follow the Raleigh link, and pretty soon we're going to be having some social media sites set up, Facebook and LinkedIn, and that's going to contain all the information. And then they can both join as members, or they can also attend events through Eventbrite, and then we can talk about membership.
Okay, that sounds good. And we will put the exact address of the Bastiat Society of Raleigh in the description. But if you'd like to go just based on what you're hearing right now, it's AIER, American Institute for Economic Research, AIER.org. The director of the new Bastiat Society of Raleigh chapter is Brad Taylor. Brad, I'm sure that a lot of people are going to watch this and meet you on October 13th, and we're glad that you had a chance to come in and talk to us about the Bastiat Society.
Mitch, I can't thank you enough. Can't thank Amy Cook enough. Thank you so much to the John Locke Foundation.